When it comes to business partnerships, especially,
Yeah.
the ones trying to spark innovation, we usually think closer is always better. That's the standard idea, right?
Right. Physical proximity feels like it should make everything smoother.
Exactly. But what if it's not the whole story? What if distance, geographic distance, plays a more complicated, maybe even a surprising role in whether these partnerships actually work out?
Mm-hmm.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. Because firms, especially now, they know innovation is absolutely key. And partnering with universities, that seems like a great way to get cutting-edge research, new talent, technical expertise.
Definitely. It's a common strategy.
But the bit we often skip over is, does the actual distance between the company and the university,
Mm-hmm.
does it really matter that much?
Well, that's the core question tackled by this study we're digging into. It's called Should Geography Shape Innovation Partnerships? Insights from Industry-University Collaboration in China.
Okay,
And the authors are Yingbo Xu, Yahui Zhu, Yuming Luo, Xiampeng Si, and Wei Lu.
got it. And what kind of data are they working with here?
It's pretty extensive. They looked at 3,807 listed Chinese firms.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and tracked them over 17 years. So like 1999 all the way to 2016. They were specifically looking at how geographic distance, but also geographic dispersion, like how spread out their university partners are, how those things affect innovation.
17 years on nearly 4,000 firms. That's robust. It gives their findings some real weight, I'd imagine.
For sure.
And you mentioned this isn't just, an academic thing. It sounds like it has real-world implications.
Oh, absolutely. The study makes it clear. It's relevant for the managers making partnership choices, obviously, but also for university folks and maybe especially for policymakers thinking about how to build strong national innovation systems.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this then. What did they find? What's the surprising part?
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The relationship between distance and innovation. It's not a straight line. It's not closer is always better.
Uh-huh.
Instead, they found an inverted U-shaped curve.
An inverted U, so like
No.
a rainbow shape, meaning there's a peak somewhere in the middle.
Exactly. It means being too close can hurt innovation, and being too far can hurt innovation. Both extremes have downsides.
Okay, hold on. Too close can hurt. That goes against the grain. What's the problem with being practically next door to your university partner?
Well, there are a couple of things. First, the study calls it spatial lock-in.
Spatial lock-in.
Yeah, think about it. If you're always drawing from the exact same local pool of knowledge, the same professors, the same departments, you risk just recycling the same ideas.
Ah, right. You get stuck in an echo chamber, maybe.
Yeah,
Lack of fresh perspectives.
precisely. It can lead to redundancy, stagnation, like you said, an echo chamber. The second risk is maybe less intuitive. It's knowledge overload.
Overload. Like too much information.
Yeah, exactly. If you're super close, the sheer volume of information, data, interactions flowing into the firm might just be overwhelming, more than the company can actually absorb, process, and, use effectively.
Huh. So just because the pipe is wide open doesn't mean you can actually drink it all.
That's a good way to put it. It can actually stifle the innovation you're after.
Okay, so being too close has these hidden dangers, getting stuck or getting swamped. Makes
Right.
sense. What about the other end of the curve? Being too far away. That seems more obvious, maybe.
It is in some ways. The problems with great distance are maybe more what we'd expect.
Yeah.
It just makes it harder to build real trust.
Mm-hmm.
Communication gets trickier, less spontaneous. You lose those valuable face-to-face interactions that are often really important for deep collaboration.
Right. Especially for certain kinds of knowledge.
Spot on. It's particularly tough for transferring tacit knowledge.
Okay, remind us what tacit knowledge is again.
It's that know-how you get from experience. It's hard to write down in a manual or an email. It's the stuff you pick up by watching, by doing, by, being there.
Learning to ride a bike from a book versus actually doing it.
Kind of, yeah. Or understanding the nuances of a complex lab procedure. If you're far apart, transferring that kind of critical, unwritten knowledge, it becomes a real bottleneck for innovation.
So what's fascinating, as you said, is how these totally different problems, being stuck locally versus being isolated remotely, end up causing similar issues, hindering innovation.
Exactly. Both ends of the spectrum lead to bottlenecks.
Which brings us back to that inverted U. The sweet spot must be somewhere in the middle then.
That's the implication. There's an optimal level of geographic distance, not right next door, not across the continent, but somewhere in between.
Okay. And what does that look like practically?
It means firms can benefit from knowledge that's different, that's fresh, coming from a bit further afield, but without facing those huge barriers to trust and communication you get with extreme distance. It avoids the overload of being too close and the isolation of being too far.
So, strategically, maybe you aim for a partner that's, say, a manageable drive away, but not in your immediate backyard. Close enough for meaningful interaction, but far enough for different ideas.
That seems to be the sweet spot, yeah. It facilitates more balanced, effective partnership. Now, there's another layer to this.
Huh?
The study found this inverted U-shape is even sharper, even more pronounced for state-owned enterprises, SOEs.
Really, state-owned enterprises. Why them specifically?
Well, SOEs often operate with more, let's say, institutional rigidity. They're usually deeply embedded in strong existing local
Right,
networks.
often very established, maybe bureaucratic
Oh,
structures.
exactly. And that tends to give them less flexibility in absorbing and integrating new external knowledge, especially compared to maybe a more agile private company.
Okay, so how does that play out with distance?
It makes them more vulnerable to that spatial lock-in when they partner locally. They can get really stuck in their familiar knowledge bubble.
Because they're already so deeply rooted locally.
Right. But at the same time, those same bureaucratic structures make it harder for them to manage effective long-distance collaborations, which often require more flexibility, more fluid communication.
Wow, so they're kind of squeezed from both ends even more tightly.
You could say that. The trade-offs are sharper for SOEs.
So the strategic lesson for an SOE manager is pretty stark then. Just partnering locally because it feels safe or familiar might actually be a fast track to diminishing returns on innovation.
It could be, yes. They might need to be particularly deliberate about seeking out moderately distant partners to force that diversity of knowledge into their system.
That's a really crucial nuance. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the distance to a partner, but you mentioned the study also looked at geographic dispersion. What's that about?
Right, so dispersion isn't just about how far away one partner is, but whether a firm collaborates with universities in multiple different regions, rather than just relying on partners in their own local area.
Ah, okay. So spreading their bets geographically.
Sort of. And the findings here were really clear and consistently positive.
Let me guess. More dispersion is better.
You got it. Firms that maintain geographically dispersed collaborations simply performed better in innovation. Full stop.
And why is that? What's the mechanism?
It's fairly straightforward, actually. By working with universities in different places, they tap into a much broader range of knowledge. Different specialties, different academic cultures, different technical expertise.
Cross-pollination of ideas, basically.
Exactly. Imagine a firm working with, say, a materials science lab in Shanghai, an AI center maybe in Shenzhen, and an environmental engineering group up in Beijing.
Right.
They're much more likely to come up with really robust interdisciplinary innovations compared to a firm just working with one local university, right?
Makes perfect sense. You're drawing from a wider, deeper well of knowledge.
Precisely. And there's another benefit. It reduces risk. You're not overly reliant on a single institution or the knowledge base of just one region. It makes your innovation pipeline more resilient.
So diversity in location leads to diversity in thought, which fuels better innovation.
That's the core message on dispersion, yes.
Okay, this is all really insightful. How do we translate this into practical advice? For the people listening who might be R&D managers or university folks or even policymakers.
Right, let's connect the dots. If you're an R&D manager, the big takeaway is resist the easy option. Don't just choose your university partner based on convenience or proximity alone.
Think strategically about distance and diversity.
Yes. Strategic diversity, including geographic diversity, often beats convenience when it comes to innovation outcomes. If you're someone involved in building these industry academic partnerships, actively try to cultivate relationships across different institutions, different regions, seek out that varied expertise.
And for policymakers.
It suggests maybe thinking beyond just creating local clusters. Clusters have benefits, sure, but proximity by itself doesn't guarantee innovation.
Right, it's not magic.
No.
Yeah.
So policies should also aim to support and facilitate high-quality, diverse partnerships that span across regions, maybe travel grants, joint funding schemes for cross-regional projects, things like that.
That's a great point. And it's interesting because we have all these digital tools now, Zoom, Slack, everything that make distance communication easier. But this study seems to say, hey, those tools don't completely erase the underlying challenges, especially around trust and that tricky tacit knowledge transfer. Geography still casts a long shadow.
It does. It suggests that where you collaborate still has a profound impact on what you innovate and how well you do it. Geographic strategy isn't just an afterthought.
No, it sounds like it needs to be a central part of planning for innovation,
Yeah.
especially in this knowledge-based economy.
Absolutely, a central pillar.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the main thing you want people to take away from this deep dive?
I think the key is realizing that innovation partnership geography is nuanced. It's not just about being close or far, it's about finding that productive sweet spot of distance for individual partnerships.
The top of that inverted U.
Right. And maybe even more importantly, embracing the power of geographic dispersion,
Got it.
building a diverse portfolio of partners across different locations.
So it's about optimizing distance, A&D, maximizing diversity.
That sums it up well, because ultimately, knowledge is only valuable if you can actually understand it and critically apply it. And this research gives us a really useful new lens for thinking about how geography shapes that process in partnerships.
Definitely a valuable lens. And it leaves me with a final question for you, our listeners, to think about. Given that these digital tools, as we said, don't completely solve the distance problem, and geography still matters so much, what does that really mean for future strategies, especially as remote and virtual collaboration becomes even more common?
That's the big question, isn't it?
How will organizations make sure they hit that innovation sweet spot when physical distance is maybe less fixed, but those fundamental human elements of trust, communication, and tacit knowledge transfer are still just as crucial? Something to chew on.